What's up, Ali Squad? You know, 2020 has been really hard, and some of you know on my Instagram what has occurred. I'm trying to deal with it the best way I can. And it's hard, you know, so these videos will just go up, no editing, no nothing. I'm still here probably till tomorrow. They're monitoring me because I was on the bed I was on the operating table for about 4 hours. I'm gonna start from the beginning. We started out trying to get pregnant, and I was inseminating. I actually went to the doctor, and in July of 2019, and she did a pap smear, and pap smear was normal. She must have been too rough because I started bleeding. And then I went to another doctor days after, like 5 days after, like my period was supposed to end already. And so I went in and I said, I'm still bleeding. Like, why? Why am I still bleeding? And it wasn't like a heavy blood. It was like the ending of a period. And maybe it's too TMI, but you know, this is my testimony. This is my story, my cancer story. And I know that I have to be strong, and I know that I have to fight. And I'm trying my best. And you know, had one person tell me, you fake, be real. How can you fake cancer? Am I not supposed to share my story so that others could feel encouraged? Am I not supposed to help them seek help instead of just accepting what a doctor says? Because if I would have accepted what a doctor says, I would have went into full-blown cancer, and I could have died, and my sons could have lost their mother. Now they don't know what stage I'm in, and they're predicting that I could be stage 2. And I'm hoping that I'm stage 1. And so we're going to put it out in the atmosphere. We're going to put it out in the air, and we're going to let God guide me. And He has guided me this whole way. And He made room. So, anyway, this is my story to encourage other women that if you ever feel pain, if you bleed abnormally, if you see something that is not right, so I was just crying. I was speaking to the doctor. Doctors came in. That's why I had to stop the video. I know I said no editing, but they came in. And I think I left off at there was cysts bursting. Like I went to the doctor and I told her I was still bleeding and it was abnormal for me to continue to bleed. And she looked and she said, this is not blood. This looked like a cyst burst. And so she sent me for a sonogram. And the sonogram saw a cyst bursting. She said it's normal. These are normal pregnancy cysts. You know, I was making sure. They did a pap smear. Pap smear was fine. Everything was good. You know, because I had bared 3 kids, everything was fine. I started inseminating in the October. And right away, my body started acting up. I started bleeding before my menstrual, and I thought it was the egg sticking to the wall. And I forgot what it's called. My brain is like all over the place, but the egg, usually when you have like the blastocyst stage, like the egg is traveling and it's breaking, it's like the cells are breaking up, and the baby is forming, like the cells are separating to separate the heart, the lungs, the arm, the leg, like, all of those things. And it attaches to the wall around, sometimes it can attach late, and that's not good. It could be like the end of a pregnant, like sometimes that baby won't make it if it attaches late. But if it attaches on time, it would be anywhere after ovulation. It could be anywhere from 5 to 7 days after ovulation that it will attach to the wall, because it has to travel through the fallopian tubes and get to the wall, the endometrium. So I was bleeding 6 days early, and this was the first sign. I didn't know. I was in New York still, and I made an appointment. I think I went to the emergency room several times, twice. They did a CAT scan, they did a sonogram, and all they could see was little cysts. They did say that my wall had a little, like, extra cells. Like, it was a little thick, but they weren't concerned. And, you can never tell through a sonogram and through a CAT scan, not even through an MRI. It's never really, and I'm going to tell you why, it's never really concrete. They did not see, when they referred me to an OBGYN, he did an MRI. And he said, oh, you have adenomyosis, which is the inner lining of the uterus, which is a little thick. He said, it's not a lot. I'm not concerned. Doesn't mean you can't get pregnant. And you have an enlarged fallopian tube, and you have an ovary that has a cyst in it. And I said, okay. He said, the only way I can operate is if you see a fertility doctor, and she has to concur that this is what's going on. Once she does that, I can go in, because even though he was an OBGYN, he was in that field of removing the fallopian tube. And so at this time, we only thought the fallopian tube was going to get removed. And this was in, I would say, January, like December, January. I think January. And then after that, I made an appointment to see a fertility doctor. I was supposed to see a fertility doctor in April, and then I would have went back to him probably in May. March hits, COVID hits, and fertility was canceled. Appointment with him was canceled. And then, for me, I don't know who believes in God, but I do. He spoke to me. He said, it's time to go. You have to get up and you have to leave New York. And so I left New York and I moved. Got to where I'm at. And it was a little hard to get appointments with doctors. I didn't see GYN till September. I was referred to a GYN in September, and I saw them September 30th. And I told her, my grandmother has a history of, she died from cancer, stomach cancer. She had ovarian cancer. She had a hysterectomy. Everything was removed. And I said, for the past couple of months, I had inseminated in July. Like, I waited a couple of months, and then I was kind of afraid to inseminate because of the bleeding. And then it slowed down, it stopped. But when I inseminated in July, my whole face, if you see these marks right here, my whole face had broken out. And it was not like my body. Like, I do get pimples here and there, but for it to just break out in the chin, the only other time that I've seen this is when I had kidney stones. And so my body was reacting to what was going on. Like, my face was reacting to what was going on internally. So I told her that I'm bleeding abnormally. I'm bleeding, my body just went out of whack after I inseminated in July. And I said, I'm bleeding abnormally. I'm bleeding during ovulation. Like, it's not blood. It's like, it looked like the ending of a period, but it wasn't. Like, I would bleed longer from my period. It would go up from 11 to 13 days. And then it would like take a break for 2 days. And then when I would ovulate, it would start up again for about like 3 days. And so I would get my period normally, but it would do that for the past 4 months. I've been doing that. And I told her, the doctor that was taking care of me was supposed to do a histosalpingogram, which is you go into, they put a rod inside of in your uterus, and they let out some liquid to see what tube is blocked. So that's what she was supposed to check, because it started out with fertility. And she's like, I don't think your insurance is going to pay for that. But then I started having pain, and the bleeding continued, and so I went to the emergency room. And this emergency room, they didn't have, COVID hit so hard that this emergency room was like a ghost town. They didn't have the equipment they needed. They saw the cyst. They did a sonogram. They saw the cyst. And I called her, and they were so frustrated. And this, yes, I felt like I wasn't worth it, because my insurance wasn't good enough. I wasn't worth seeing. I'm not a human being. So they were annoyed by me, because then Odessa got involved, and she started speaking up for me. And she's like, I called, and she's like, well, I told you your insurance doesn't pay for it. I said, my insurance does pay for it. You're sending me to the wrong place. You're making the wrong referral, and you're putting in the wrong code. Odessa calls, right? And we're calling around to find places to send me to do the histosalpingogram, because they need to see if there's anything else going wrong besides the tube being blocked. It could give light to something else. Like, it could show if what's going on in the uterus, or whatever the case may be. Odessa calls, and she's like, it's you again. I told you. And Odessa was like, you didn't tell me nothing. You better get your supervisor. You better get somebody. Excuse me. I have to burp. I'm kind of getting dizzy. I'm going to drink some water. I have to take it slow. So, I'm trying to gather my thoughts. It's really hard. Let me sit in the chair and relax. So they were just really like, it was just like a disregard of my life. And after they knew that I went to the hospital, they said I had a 5-centimeter cyst on my left side, and I was in pain. This time they haven't seen the complex cyst. They didn't know it was a complex cyst. They didn't know that it was cancer. They didn't know anything, because my tests were coming back normal. And this is why I tell people, do not settle. Do not just settle for one doctor. Keep going until somebody gives you an answer. So I went to another hospital. I didn't tell them anything. Do not share information that another hospital gave you. That is something my wife taught me, because they will take that and they will run with it, and they will not diagnose you correctly. So I stood quiet, and I let them do the test. Complained of pain. I wasn't in really much pain, but I was in pain that I could not sleep at night, and I was bleeding abnormally. So I needed to find out what was wrong. They did an extensive sonogram. Like, they were there for an hour looking and looking and looking. And even after they came back, the doctor was like, go back and check the left side again. I need you to thoroughly look at the left side. And when they looked at the left side and the doctor came and she says, you have a complex cyst and those could be cancerous. So I'm thinking it's a cyst, right? They take blood. Blood comes back normal. My marker was just a little smudge up, about had 50. And I said, what will bring a marker up? And she said, an infection. I had a tooth removed because I had an infection in my tooth. So I figured, it's like, oh, well, maybe it's the tooth that got infected and caused the marker to go up. And I asked her, could it be any infection anywhere? And she said, yeah. So she told me, we can do an MRI. And I said, no. This ovary and fallopian tube is causing me issues. It's causing a disruption in my uterus. It's causing my menstrual to go out of whack. It's causing me to go out of whack, and I was getting like these yeast infections when I would ovulate. It was really weird. And it was like agitating on the outside and everywhere. And there was no reason for it because I'm a really clean person. But it would stop after the ovulation was over. And I would tell the doctors that. And they just found it weird. My body was acting out. My body was telling me. God was telling me, go to the hospital. And that's why I ended up in this hospital. And finally, when they decided, and she's like, okay, we're going to operate. And she's like, when would you like to operate? And I said, as soon as possible. I was scared. They did a biopsy. Biopsy came back clean. When I finally sat down and thought to myself, I can't let this doctor go in blind. Get the MRI. They did the MRI quick. Like, my appointments were quick. Like, they were on it, And for the meantime, the doctors and nurses are all women. So, women. So, women empowerment. The MRI came back good. They saw the complex cyst. They said it's still there. It's the same size. So, waiting for operation day. Operation was on Monday, the 2nd. I prayed to God. I told him to keep me safe. I said, heal me from any disease, from any illness. And the night before, I had a dream that my uterus looked like chicken, like just bland white chicken. Bland white chicken. That was a dream that I had. And I told my wife, and she said, Alicia, it's because you're about to go into surgery. And I said, okay. But I believe that God was telling me, there's cancer there. And the morning of, I prayed to God. And as soon as I got in the car, it was about 8:18 in the morning. And they called me and they said, Miss Arroyo, come in. Somebody canceled their appointment. That slot is open for you. Come in. I was supposed to go in they asked me to come in early. And I said, okay, I'm going to come in early. I said, okay, I'm on my way already. And she said, you're already on your way? And I said, yeah, because they told me to come early just in case, like, to prep me or whatever. And she's like, good. We'll be ready when you get here. I went in thinking that this was going to be a 45 to an hour operation. I was in the table for 4 hours. They called Odessa with me open on the table. And I asked her to make a decision. Remove her whole uterus. Or take out the left side and wait for the result. And I know that was the hardest decision that I had to make. She has told me, like, I couldn't do that to you. I couldn't just take out everything. You go into an operation and then come back with nothing. I couldn't have you wake up that way. And she felt so guilty. And I said, I'm not mad. I'm not angry. I said, everything is going as God planned. My story has already been written. God knows what's going on. And he made this way. He made this way free so that I could be on the table, so that the doctors could focus on me. I told her, you made the best choice that you could make as my wife. And we just wait for the result. My story is not to feel pity. My story is to alert women. Don't settle. Don't just allow someone to tell you that you're fine. When the doctors came back and told me what they saw inside, they were baffled. I was in shock. They started out making holes. I had a hole in my belly button, 2 holes on the side, because they were gonna go in and take out what they thought was a cyst or a tumor. And it wasn't big because I thought it was 3 centimeters. And when they saw my organs were stuck together, all this time I'm thinking I have adenomyosis. And I didn't. I had endometriosis. My organs were stuck together like glue. Like you just put crazy glue and everything just got stuck together. My colon was stuck. And I'm like, how am I functioning? How am I using the bathroom? Like, and from, what someone told me, it's like, if it's not damaged on the inside, you're going to function just fine. So I get that. But, that's when they couldn't do through the camera. They had to open me up cesarean. And that's when they called the doctor to make the decision. They had to separate those organs on the left side. And they had to find the ovary. They couldn't find it. And they found it. It was a struggle for them. And then to open it, it was a struggle. They did a quick freeze, which allows you to see if it's cancer, and it reacted, so it was cancer. So she's like, you could be stage 2. I'm hoping that I'm stage 1 because I need it. It's a harder battle when you're a higher stage. Ladies, be aware, take care of yourself. Men, be aware and take care of yourself. Don't settle. And now I'm on the waiting process. And I will keep you guys updated. Thank you for your support. Thank you for everybody that has messaged me on Instagram. Thank you for listening to my story. And I will continue to update you through the whole process.